Good evening, everyone. This is Jordan from Madtown. Welcome back to a special Halloween episode of Drawing the Facts. We have a lot of tricks and treats tonight. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe if you want to see more content. And if you enjoy the channel, like, comment, and share. In this episode, we'll be learning something horrifying and deplorable, yet also something cuddly and adorable. Tonight, we'll be learning about a clown that's full of tricks and a bear that's full of treats. We'll be giving you the facts on Pennywise from Stephen King's novels It and Winnie the Pooh. And before I begin, I just gotta warn you, I will not be making any Pooh jokes. I mean, come on. We have some dignity. So, grab your jack-o'-lantern and prepare your candy corn. This is Drawing the Facts, the Red Balloon. Let's delve right in, as we first start off with the clown himself, Pennywise. This character was created by the father of all things scary and twisted, Stephen King. Stephen Edwin King was born on September 21st, 1947 in Portland, Maine. For Mr. King, writing was always something natural to him. In fact, his first short story started out back in his college years at University of Maine at Orono. The story was called Startling Mystery Stories. After getting a degree in English, he went out to find a job as a teacher, but during this time, he would continue writing stories. He finally began his career as an English teacher at Hampton Academy in the late 1971. Mr. King's first successful novel was Carrie, which was written in 1973, which of course tells the tale of a tormented teen who gets revenge at her high school. After Carrie became a huge success, he went on to devote himself as becoming a full-time writer. And of course, Carrie went on to be a cinematic horror, starring the actress Sissy Spacek. Did you know that Sissy actually almost got the role for Princess Leia in the first Star Wars film, New Hope? More novels then soon followed, including Salem's Lot, The Shining, Firestarter, Cujo, and of course, It. In order for the public to accept more of his books, Stephen King came up with the alias Richard Bachman. This idea came up after seeing a novel by Richard Stark on his desk, as well as hearing the song You Ain't Seen Nothin' Yet by Bachman Turner Overdrive. Other books that were later turned into films were Cujo and Firestarter, which were released in 1983 and 1984, The Shining, which stars Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. And speaking of which, keep an eye out for Dr. Sleep, starring Ewan McGregor, coming out very soon. Yes, Stephen King has made a lot of films based on his books. But one of his books that actually wasn't made into a film was It, which became a miniseries in 1990. Now that we talk a little bit about Mr. King himself, let's talk a little bit more about It and its main star. It was published in 1986, and as I mentioned before, It became a miniseries in 1990. However, this wasn't going to be the first and last time we were going to see this on the screen. In 2017, the remake of the classic horror came out in 2017, following with the sequel, It Chapter 2, which came out this year. The inspiration behind the story actually came from an old Norwegian fairy tale called The Three Billy Goats Gruff, which was about three scrappy goats outsmarting a bridge troll. A little far-fetched, but if you change a bridge into a city and turn a troll into a demonic clown, then, well, there you have it. It is Stephen King's second longest novel, with over 1,138 pages. It is second only to The Stand, which is only 1,153 pages. And not only is this book long, but it weighs over 4 pounds. It was Stephen King's last book before he became sober. Between 1978 until 1986, King was under the influence of drugs and alcohol, especially the powdered sugar. In the book, our man Pennywise actually wasn't really a clown. In fact, it was a malevolent entity that formed any kind of image based on what a person's most biggest fears. He will also transform himself into werewolves and vampires. It's actually a strong coincidence that in the book, it has been terrorizing Derry for over 27 years. And there's been a 27-year gap between the 1990 miniseries and the 2017 remake. The main setting of Derry, Maine is actually based off a town of Bangor, which is in Maine. And it was also a place that King lived in 1979 with his wife. His wife considered Portland, however, he considered it to be a yuppie town. Although Pennywise can change to any form, his clown form became a staple to his character. Reason why is because Stephen King thinks that clowns are what children are scared the most of. And honestly, I don't really blame him. In fact, funny enough, if not scary enough, King actually shared an experience with Conan O'Brien in an interview in 2005, where he actually sat next to Ronald McDonald on a plane. So going back to Pennywise's form, I have mentioned that he shapeshifts into any person's deepest fears. And of course, he has his very iconic humanly clown form. However though, his physical form is actually beyond that. The closest we ever got in terms of his true form is his massive spider shape. Its true form actually exists in a cosmic void between dimensions, known as the Macroverse. Now, get this. The one creature that's able to stop it is none other than a cosmic space turtle. Cocaine is one hell of a drug. So, this creature by the name of Meteorin, which is another agent Macroverse entity who created the universe, has been in battle with it for centuries, millennium. You can say that if Meteorin represents creation, it represents destruction. Its clown form is based off of Ronald McDonald as well as Clarabelle the Clown from Howdy Doody and Bozo the Clown. But he is not based off the child entertainer John Wayne Gacy, who is also a serial killer. I guess my theory is proven wrong. Pennywise has also made cameos in different Stephen King books. Because all of his stories take place in the same universe, our beloved clown was able to make multiple appearances. For instance, in Tommyknockers, a character travels to Derry and sees Pennywise appear in a storm drain, similar to how Bill's little brother saw him. He is also mentioned in books such as 11/22/63, Insomnia, and the short story Grey Matter. Looks like Marvel is the only one to get a crossover. You know what to do, Mr. King. As I mentioned before, it was brought onto the small screen on November 18th, 1990. It starred one of my personal favorite actors of all time, the legend, Tim Curry. Along with Pennywise, Tim Curry's other iconic roles include Dr. Frankenfurter from the Rocker Horror Picture Show, Wadsworth from Clue, the Concierge from Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, and his most award-winning role ever, Nigel Thornberry. But did you know that Tim Curry actually almost didn't get the role? Originally, due to all the heavy makeup, Tim Curry was actually just going to step down from it. Especially after his experience working on Legend, where he had to put on hours and hours of makeup. But in the end, less makeup was put on him during the production of the film, and even with less makeup, Tim Curry is able to put on a really great and terrifying performance. Did you also know that Tim Curry wasn't the first person to be considered the role of Pennywise? In fact, the person who came in mind was Alice Cooper, the rock legend. Other actors, including Malcolm McDowell and Roddy McDowell, were also considered for the role. Alas, even though Tim Curry was able to play one of the most iconic and memorable characters in horror history, he actually gets less than 20 minutes of screen time. That's right, less than 20 out of 192 minutes of the original miniseries, Tim Curry has appeared as Pennywise. We still believe in you, man. We still believe in you. 27 years later, it came back to the big screen on September 8th, 2017. The role of Pennywise was handed down to Bill Skarsgård, an actor and producer from Vällingby, Sweden. Unlike Tim Curry, who got the chance to not only work with the children, but also was able to entertain them during slow times, Bill had no off time interacting with the kids in the remake. The reason for this is for the actors to feel genuine shock and surprise when seeing Pennywise for the first time. This trick is actually not uncommon in horror films. Working through the makeup and costume for Pennywise was also a bit of a challenge, especially for those prosthetic teeth. Bill grinning while wearing those big buff-toothed chompers caused him to drool excessively. However though, Andy Muschietti kept this in the film, for it was able to make Pennywise very ravenous and wild. And you remember all those scenes where Pennywise moved his eyes separately in different directions? Well, that's not CGI. Bill is able to shift his eyes around, which was creepy and terrifying. It even freaked out Bill Hader, co-star from It 2. In Chapter 2, which was released on September 6, 2019, Bill was able to work with all the adult actors, who were cast as older versions from the first film. Did you also know there was another remake of It? Well, actually, it's actually not even called It. It's called Whoa. W-O-H, Whoa. Huh? And it was a more of a Indian Bollywood version of the Western story. I couldn't find any clips, but if you're able to find anything, please let me know. Hello everyone. So, if you folks know, it is way past Halloween. Due to some technical issues, we had to delay the official release. We truly apologize. However though, if you're watching this video and you're enjoying this, thank you. We appreciate your patience. And we promise for the next video, we will make sure that we are up on our game. Alright, enough clowning around. It's time to get serious. This character they're going to be focused on in this drawing is a chubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff. Winnie the Pooh. Let's start this off by first mentioning some facts on the creator of Winnie the Pooh, A.A. Milne. A.A. Milne was a British author born in London, England on January 18, 1882. He began his career as a novelist, a poet, and a playwright during the 1920s. One of his best works were children's poetry, which included When We Were Young and Now We Are Six. Milne was a very creative and peace-loving gentleman. However, in 1915, he had to serve in World War I, enlisting in the Royal Warwickshire Regiment. and then working in the Royal Corps of Signals. He was discharged in 1919 and settled back in London with his wife, Dorothy, and their son, Christopher Robin, who was born in 1920. Even though Milnes made great success with all his playwrights and poems, one of his greatest successes of all time was creating the memorable character of Winnie the Pooh in 1926 and The House at Pooh Corner in 1928. These stories follow the adventures of a young boy named Christopher Robin, of course named after his own son, and his animal playmates, who were inspired by Christopher Robin's stuffed toys. Pooh Bear was the central character, accompanied by rabbits, Eeyore, Tigger, Kanga, her son Roo, Owl, and Piglet in the 100-Acre Woods. The illustrations of his books were done by the artist Ernest H. Shepard. In his later years, A. Milnes went back to writing for adults, publishing novels, short story collections, and non-fiction books about anti-war, including ones such as Peace with Honor. On January 31st, 1956, Milnes died in Hartfield, East Sussex, England. If you'd like to learn more about A. Milnes, you can read his autobiography called It's Too Late Now in 1939, as well as his biographical film Goodbye Christopher Robin, which was released in 2017, starring Domhnall Gleeson as Milnes and Margot Robbie as Milnes' wife. Now, on to the main bear himself. Did you guys know that Winnie the Pooh's original name was Edward? His famous name was actually inspired by a real-life black bear owned by a Canadian soldier serving World War I. Colburn was approached by a little bear cub in White River as the trapper killed his mother but was unable to do the same to the orphan baby. At this time, Colburn was a cavalry veterinarian, so he was able to purchase the cuddly cub for $20. He named it Winnipeg, in honor of his hometown, but it was later nicknamed Winnie for short. Winnie and Colburn were two peas at the pods and were inseparable until he was called in to the Western Front. On December 9th, 1914, Colburn left Winnie at the London Zoo, promising that he'll one day reunite with him again. During his time at the zoo, Winnie was a big friendly attraction to all the children. And one of the children was none other than Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin grew so fond of the bear that he later on changed his teddy bear's name from Edward to Winnie the Pooh. And Pooh is actually the moniker bestowed on a swan he used to feed in the mornings. After her death in 1934, Winnie's skull was sent to the Royal College of Surgeons and was placed on display for the very first time. It becomes in Milnes' books. Her name would become even more famous in history. The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh became so popular that it was told and translated in over 50 languages, including Afrikaans, Czech, Finnish, and Yiddish. Now, although Milnes is known for creating one of the most beloved children's books of all time, he actually did not prefer to write children's books. He actually preferred to write more mature themed novels. But due to the success of Winnie the Pooh, he was kind of stuck in this position for quite some time. And it also didn't help that this strained the relationship between him and Christopher Robin. As he began to grow up, he also became a writer, but he began to write memoirs such as The Enchanted Places, Beyond the World of Pooh, and The Hollow on the Hill, in which all these works was a resentment towards his father for abusing his good name and pretty much leaving him with quote-unquote empty fame. In the US, pretty much everyone knows that the Big Mouse took Winnie the Pooh and changed him to becoming one of the most biggest icons in entertainment. However though, 30 years before Walt Disney was able to claim rights for Winnie the Pooh, an American producer by the name of Steven Schlesinger acquired rights for Winnie the Pooh's merchandise in the US and Canada. And while some of us don't really mind a naked teddy bear, Pooh began to wear his signature red t-shirt, which was drawn in 1932 for the RCA Victor Picture Records. In the 1940s, plush dolls don't need the red top for being produced. Shirley Schlesinger Glasswell, who was Steven's widow, licensed Pooh's merchandise to Disney in 1961, therefore keeping Pooh's new style. This, ladies and gentlemen, leads this bear to the big screen. In 1961, Walt Disney purchased the rights from Daphne Mills, A.A. Mills' widow. Disney produced a series of Winnie the Pooh shorts and released it in the theater starting in the late 1960s. In 1977, the three shorts were then collaborated into one full-length film. And in 1977, Pooh's first theatrical release came out, called The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Later on during the 1980s, Disney also produced two television shows for Winnie the Pooh, including Welcome to Pooh's Corner and The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. In 2000s, more films were being produced, including Winnie the Pooh's Grand Adventure, The Tigger Movie, Piglet's Big Movie, Pooh's Heffalump Movie, and the CGI series My Friends Tigger and Pooh. Very soon, the Pooh Bear franchise became a huge household name. Winnie the Pooh also even became an inspiration for scholars and philosophers. Benjamin Hoff, an American author, wrote both The Tao of Pooh and The Tea of Piglet to explain the Chinese philosophy of Taoism. In Oxford, England, there's actually a game called Pooh Sticks World Championship. The game is all about players dropping sticks off of one side of a bridge, and whoever's stick emerges from the other side first is the winner. Winnie the Pooh's fame even gone further, as his name was put on as a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Unless you be living under a border, everyone knows the classic Disney version of Winnie the Pooh. But did you know that on January 30th, 1952, BBC actually released a television show of Winnie the Pooh, starring Pamela Brown, Dorothy Gordon, Derek Geiler, and Cameron Hall as Pooh Bear. I couldn't find any videos, but if anyone's able to find anything, please let me know in the comments. As mentioned before, from 1966 to 1974, there have been 3 short films put together to be made into a full-length film. This included Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, and Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2. Did you know that in Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, artists used over 1.2 million pencils and made almost 100,000 drawings? July 15th, 2011, Winnie the Pooh was released and was one of Disney's last fully traditionally animated films before switching to computer animation. This film also featured a collaboration of other adventures from A.A. Milne's books. And of course, the last film featuring Winnie the Pooh was Christopher Robin, which was released on August 3rd, 2018. This film was a live-action story focusing on an adult Christopher Robin, played by Ewan McGregor. Although the story is meant to be fictional, there are some elements in the film that actually is based off of the real Christopher Robin Milnes. Both did attend boarding school and served in World War II. They both got married and had a daughter, albeit with different names. The first actor to provide the role for Winnie the Pooh is Sterling Holloway. Mr. Holloway is actually a veteran actor from the early Disney films, with his first film being Dumbo from 1941. Also the voice of the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland, and the voice of Kaa from The Jungle Book. In 1991, Sterling Holloway was replaced by veteran voice actor Jim Cummings in the 1991 television series The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. During season 3, Paul Winchell, the original voice for Tigger, left the show. Jim Cummings then stepped in to do the voices for both Pooh Bear and Tigger. In every TV show, film, video games, you name it, Jim has been doing the voices for both Pooh Bear and Tigger from the 90s till the current year. Before I close out, have you folks ever heard of Winnie Pooh? Well, Winnie Pooh is actually the Russian version of Winnie the Pooh, which was released in 1969. I guess Pooh Bear was so famous, even the Soviet Union wanted a taste of the honey. Funny enough, even the director of Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, Wolfgang Reitherman, actually preferred the Soviet Union's version. Hey everyone, this is Jordan from Madtown Studios. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be putting up new content each month. Down below in the comments, if you have any questions for me or if you have any recommendations of what I should draw, please let me know. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more updates from Madtown Studios, tap that subscribe button down below. Well, see you next time. Peace.